Hi, and welcome to the latest Plimsoll webinar. Now, this is the latest in our monthly series of webinars, and this one covers Plimsoll's forecast for 2021 and the decisions we're all having to make in these historic times. Now, if you're planning sessions for next year or anything like the ones that we've had at Plimsoll over the past few weeks, there've been a series of what-ifs, maybes, rather than the more predictable projections that we've had in other sessions in other years. With this wretched virus and an increasingly fractious Brexit outcome. That's really not been the case this year. Now, accurately forecasting what comes next in any industry is almost impossible. But as business leaders, we've got to make the best of what we have. So with that in mind, understanding more about the market you operate in, your own slice of it, the companies you compete against, and the signs that you can spot early are the only tools that you've got to build a strategy for 2021. Now, at Plimsoll, we produce individual market studies for over 1,600 different industries and countless European markets too. And they're designed to help you better understand the landscape heading into what promises to be a very interesting 2021. So based on our extensive analytical insight, we're able to bring you this webinar looking at the 5 key decisions that all business leaders need to make and how they can find the best intelligence to inform those decisions. Decision 1, is our traditional marketplace going to be enough for us in 2021? The first forecast every business needs to make is, what state are my core markets going to look like next year? Will our main market still be shuttered as the new year starts? How long will it be shuttered for? If the pandemic has given one of your core markets a temporary lift, how long will that boost really last? And have you used your windfall to prepare for normalization of market conditions sometime in the new year? Now, there are so many variables that will be extremely hard to forecast. And this strategic planning season is going to be unlike any other I think any of us have ever had. If you're in the hospitality sector, the first quarter of next year is probably going to be among the toughest periods yet as part of this crisis. How can you pivot your business to help you survive until restrictions are lifted in certain sectors? Which pivots are the most appropriate for a business such as yours? And there's no point in pivoting, of course, to another market that's equally hamstrung as the one that you're pivoting away from temporarily. So, as part of talking to key decision makers, we recently surveyed the UK's leading entrepreneurs and business owners to judge the mood heading out of this tumultuous 2020 and into hopefully what's a more prosperous 2021. There were 10 markets that we found that stood out with the highest proportion of companies that are expecting good 2020 results and for that to carry on into the new year. Some of them will be no surprise. Workwear and PPE was one that jumped off the page. Now, will demand last at the levels that it's at through 2021? What happens if demand plateaus? Some other ones, insurance brokers, manned guarding, fishing equipment, as we all rush to riverbanks to fish. Animal feed, wine and spirits wholesalers, which, let's be honest, seems to be a seemingly virus-proof industry. Janitorial and cleaning supplies, again, as with workwear and PPE, will we still be sanitising as much in Q2, for example? Traffic management, which was an odd one, considering I haven't driven my car all that much this year. Builders merchants, and then finally construction. Now, with increased signs of over-exuberance in the housing market, the last two, you wonder, are they heading for a fall in 2021, regardless of the way that the path of the virus goes? So forecasting next year may be difficult. I think that goes without saying. But if you monitor the trends, you can react accordingly. As companies that were already in danger pre-crisis, as they start to post new data, how big has the impact of COVID-19 been on their performance? Could there be other casualties from prolonged lockdowns? Most importantly, how can you position your business to thrive in different scenarios for 2021? Now, with an individual assessment of your company alongside your key competition, Plimsoll can help you to monitor change throughout your key markets and see which companies are getting it right, see who's falling behind. And most importantly, we can see how you measure up. Decision 2. Is your strategic focus for 2021 survive or thrive? Almost every company's got to make a decision now and make decisions that they've never had to make before. I'd give you an example. For the first time in our history, we've talked to clients that have had actual negative income for a full trading year. I mean, that's just unprecedented. How do you deal with that? How do you even post that in your accounts? But all of this requires a new mindset. Is your business in survive or is it in thrive mode? Yeah, and there are even nuance within those broad statements. Many companies will hope to get through to Q2 next year with their business still standing and hoping for a reprieve from lockdowns and restrictions and increases in demand and what have you. Others will be wondering how long they can ride the wave of increased demand. Companies that are in industries that have been or are set to be hit by the worst effects of the pandemic, the decision is simple. It's a simple survive or thrive. Even in the most damaged sectors such as travel and hospitality, there are still those with the resources and the wherewithal to be looking for opportunities among what's essentially a scorched landscape. Now, others obviously are having to cling on to whatever parts of the business they can turn a profit from, and sadly, many are actually closing, as we well know in the news. Now, in industries where there's been an explosion of demand, now's the time to start solidifying the foundations of the business to cope with the inevitable decline in demand once conditions start to abate a little bit. Overtrading and chasing sales can become commonplace in markets where protagonists are convinced that the good times will last forever. But as we well know, they won't. Nothing lasts forever. Our recent survey found a surprising amount of optimism for 2021, though, which I'm delighted to say. After the year we've all just had, it was a little surprising to find 49% of companies expect sales to fall. We honestly thought it would be much higher. 51% of companies, though, expect to either increase sales or actually to be unaffected by the virus. Over half of companies are predicting no impact on their sales from this once-in-a-lifetime, unprecedented, however you want to frame it, this seismic event that we're going through, have been unaffected by the sales are going to carry on as they were. Now, at Plimsoll, we help our clients, whatever their industry, to reset the goals, decide where they can and where they must improve. And in such a fluid economic situation, it really, really does pay to be prepared. Decision 3, without organic growth, are mergers and acquisitions the key to expansion? Acquisitions have been a feature in most markets for a long time, long before the pandemic hit. However, the one thing that COVID-19 has done is accelerate the trend. Many companies across a broad spectrum of markets have found themselves in need of recapitalization. Many companies have lost a third of the past trading year, to lockdown markets and restrictions and what have you, some even more. So if growth is still stymied by a lack of a normal in 2021, is an acquisition the best way to expand? More importantly, what sort of acquisition do you want to make? Now, at Plimsoll, we advise companies on all the options in their specific markets. And we try to help interested potential inquiries to build a list of options rather than just running in and taking a punt on the first recommendation that falls on their desk. Now, in 2020, we've been inundated with the phrase distressed acquisition. It's very much in vogue at the minute. Potential suitors seem hell-bent on rescuing a company that's been brought to its knees by the virus, turning them round, and adding them to the portfolio. But our question increasingly to clients is, why are you not buying a better business? Buying a distressed asset can be fraught with risk. You could be catching a falling knife. Many suitors could be circling as everyone looks for a bargain. And you might find yourself overpaying for a business but never actually recover. We recommend that you shop on the premium shelf as well and look at buying a strong business. Yes, absolutely. You're going to pay a premium. You might encounter a reluctant seller that makes the deal a little bit harder to complete. However, buying a stronger business means your new addition it's off the shelf. It leaves little tweaking post-acquisition, and it really is a hassle-free means of adding growth, regardless of your industry, regardless of the conditions within your key markets. Now, having surveyed the businesses, as I mentioned before, and surveying business leaders, we were staggered to see that almost a quarter of companies intend to increase their acquisition activity in the coming 12 months, in spite of the virus. You know, literally some markets could be set for a major redrawing of the landscape as business change hands much, much more in the coming year. Now, at Plimsoll, we can help you to build a list of your options, even in these challenging times. We can show you the distressed bargains, and we can also show you the high-value premium options. And we encourage all businesses to have a shopping list, whatever stage they're at in their buying process, even if they've never considered it. Just having a list is a great strategic asset. Decision 4. How many people will we need in 2021? Now, people losing their jobs is the human face of the impact of COVID-19. But again, it's one of significant nuance. You know, some markets are struggling to get staff to keep up with demand. Others, obviously, it's on the news a lot. Others are making wholesale cuts and making people redundant. Now, innovators across all markets are using this period to recalibrate the businesses. Some are even investing in the technology to advance the company, increase their productivity for the next decade and beyond, which, as we well know, virus aside, is a key issue in the UK and many of its markets. Now, many leaders, despite the pandemic, are looking to add to the headcount. As part of the survey, we asked business leaders, what are their hiring intentions? And it was quite interesting. Some of the industries that said they had intentions of adding staff next year. These included fresh produce. Now, clearly, Brexit is probably going to have a larger impact on staff than maybe COVID-19 has, as cheap labour from the continent dries up. That's probably the same with agricultural machinery, janitorial and cleaning supplies, food flavourings, cash and carry wholesalers, home care providers, again, often as a result of reduction in qualified staff coming from the EU, IT support as the world pivots towards a working from home reality, same with software development, and then waste management and modular portable buildings. All leaders within those markets told us that they had intentions of hiring more people next year. So hiring intentions in 2021 across the UK economy will remain fluid as the situation unfolds. Now, a vaccine or a cessation of restrictions could see demand for staff, particularly in hospitality, bounce back very, very quickly. As of today, though, the intentions of business leaders are pretty much split. 30% of all the companies that we've surveyed have said that they intend to increase the staff. 29% will retain the same level of staff, and 41% are looking to reduce staff. So almost 2/3 of companies have no intention of losing staff, which is very interesting. Now, at Plimsoll, we'll show you which companies need to make cuts, which companies have the balance right, and then how your own business compares, how your productivity and efficiency compares to other leaders in the market. Decision 5. How do we set up to benefit from the virus? The final forecast for 2021 is the financial stability of the companies that matter to you. The recessionary pull of the pandemic and continued lockdowns really now is only becoming fully apparent. Furlough schemes that projected jobs throughout the initial wave in the spring and the summer are being pared back and made less generous. Companies with no incoming revenue are increasingly having to act fast. And the news is full of the stories that job losses are expected to rise sharply in the coming months. And we're already seeing that. It's not news. Now, the knock-on effect for all industries could be wide-reaching as consumer demand in the all-important services sector falls markedly. An increasingly disorderly Brexit will likely only add more petrol to an already seemingly out-of-control fire. So the only way to prepare your business is to look at the current state of play across your market and ask, if a company were to fail, or if a competitor were to fail, how would that affect your own business? Are you prepared to act quickly to capitalize on failure of others in your market? And how does your financial performance compare to others you compete with? Now, one of the key tools in predicting the longevity of companies throughout the pandemic and in the recovery is to look at the trend in the performance over the previous 5 years. Now, companies that were in financial difficulty already are those least equipped to make it to the other side of the pandemic. Now, based on the 1,600 individual studies that we produced, almost a quarter of businesses were in financial danger, and that's changing all of the time as new data comes online. But that means that 3/4 of companies were either doing okay or very strong. 44% of companies that we analysed were given a strong rating by Plimsoll, proving that there is stability and longevity within UK businesses. Now, Plimsoll can help clients to assess their own long-term financial performance, compare it to key rivals, and monitor the health of others that they compete against, which are all vital tools in these uncertain times. So those are the 5 key decisions that companies have to make in this, the most foggy planning season that I think any of us have ever gone through. Now, I'm sure we're all heading into 2021 feeling very different to how we started 2020. I think that goes without saying. That said, that doesn't mean that we as business leaders shouldn't be building a strategy to make sure that the next 12 months isn't as successful as macroeconomic factors allow. Key questions we've all got to ask ourselves, is our market too narrow and should we diversify? Are we retreating into a defensive profit protection position? Are we going to go for it in 2021? Could we buy in growth or acquisitions in the current or even new markets? Could we pivot and buy into a new market? How many people, how many human resources are we really going to need? And then finally, can we make some good from these unsettling times? The key to all of that is good analysis and decisions based on evidence. There's no room for guesswork in 2021. I think that's clear to everyone. And the consequences of getting it wrong are literally plastered over the news. Plimsoll can help you gain the intelligence you will need to be as successful as possible, regardless what happens from here on in with the virus, the Brexit, or even the recessionary issues that we have around both issues. So I'm just going to show you a very quick video now on how Plimsoll can give you the intelligence to be able to make those 5 decisions with confidence in 2021. So thanks for attending today's webinar. All attendees will get a free copy of our latest white paper on the key decision makers that everyone has to make in 2021. that'll be sent across to you via email this afternoon. So in the meantime, best of luck.